Here is the video review for Iron Factory's Chaos Raven, their version of the Fallen. It is, as you can see, a heavy retool of their, well, not heavy, but I mean there's a lot of different pieces here. A retool of their Tyrant or their Megatron. Now it does come with some cool extra pieces. It does not come with all of the various kinds of bits and things to swap into like the 4 different versions of the character, but it does have some neat stuff, as long with some heavily remolded bits. So you can obviously see all of these transparent orange bits on the feet and shoulders and knees and in the chest plate and such, then this little extra piece under the cannon. But yeah, so he ends up looking different than Megatron, but the base transformation and everything is still the same. Like some of these treads are the same. And like I said, you don't get all of the options that came with Tyrant. He does, and because of all of some of these extra bits, he doesn't sit quite as flush with the body. His chest piece is not quite as flat as Tyrant's was. And also, there's this extra little piece right here that I've taken to storing right here under the cannon in tank mode, because it doesn't really sit much lower than that, even with that piece off, just how everything fits together, and that just kind of helps fill in some of the gap under here, as well as the fact it's like the one loose piece outside of the weapons and the cape that is could easily get lost, so I just store it there, and we'll show you what that piece does when we get to robot mode. But the turret still turns side to side, and the treads don't roll, obviously, but there is the tank mode. And again, it's a little bit of it's a tank because we say so, but it's identifiable as a tank. It's got the cannon, the turret, it's got the treads, you know what I'm saying. Transforms essentially the same as Megatron or Tyrant. We'll go ahead and pop that piece off right now, and then pop the arms away from the cannon. So the cannon itself comes up, fold the sides down, flip that around, and that's the one cannon you get with Chaos Raven. You don't get the multiple cannon types either. Cool, we'll set that off to the side, and then the arms kind of bring up. I'm going to lift the chest piece up, kind of pull the treads out and away to the side so these can come up and rotate out to the side to be shoulders. Let's kind of rotate that centerpiece out like that, up and under that chest piece, which can then fold back down and around. Oh, his head came up with it. His head is usually folded up, just it's visible, but it's folded up flat right under into that space, but it came up with the chest plate. So we'll go ahead and flip that up, and you can see the Fallen head piece there. Bring these down, we'll fold the treads. They have a little tab here that this cover, this is just like on Megatron. You untab it up here at the front, and then it slides up, collapses a little bit, and then this tab here on this piece tabs into his backpack to lock it in place like that. And you can see how this piece is a collapsed tread, whereas this is the uncollapsed tread. You just want to kind of lift it up like that, and then collapse it up, and then that tab will line up and lock it onto his back. So here are his arms. Go ahead and lift those up, rotate his hands around. So they're facing the right way, and there's a little panel here you can open up to get a grip on the hands, and the hands just kind of flip out like that. He does come with extra hands, but these kind of open hands with the hinge here at the wrist are the only hands that he can actually transform with. You either have to, if you're using the other hands, you either have to pop them off for transformation or swap to these hands. And we'll show the other hands here shortly, but the hand out. Yeah. Rotate it. There we go. And then the legs, I'm going to lift these panels up and then unpeg the legs from each other and get them as best as we can, as far apart as we can. It's a little harder for him. Actually, it might help if we extend the legs first. So we'll go ahead and open this up right here. Bring the legs up. Basically what I'm doing is we got to flip this piece around to the front of the crotch, and these panels prevent the legs from getting quite as far out as they could otherwise. So we'll go ahead and help that Hopefully that will help us get the clearance we need. Because this piece is a little bigger than on Tyrant, so it's a little harder to get around. But you just flip that around to the front and bring the legs down and then fold these. Well, these are on hinges, but they're little flat hinges. Go right in there and then fold it down past the waist piece. The legs are now extended, and this piece can fold up to fill in the leg and snap together right up there. Snaps right into there to the top of the knee. And then the feet can kind of come up here, and the heel part can flip down. And for the most part, that's robot mode done. Now his cannon, I said we do have some extra bits to go over, and there's some cool stuff that's about to happen here. So the cannon can be worn on his arm, just like on Tyrant, in a very Megatron-esque way, on either arm. I may want to lift the shoulder pad up a little bit to give it the clearance it needs. So you can have the shoulders like that. There's a lot of different ways you can arrange the shoulders to look cool. You can have these kind of fins facing up, like that. You can also take this extra piece right here. You can peg this in to the orange peg hole there. And this piece you can either can peg right back here on the back of this arm. So you can store it vertically on his back like that. But the way this is hinged, it can rotate up over his shoulder. You can kind of rotate this down a little bit. If you want to have these more out like this, you can have it sit over his shoulder like that. You can even, if you want to bring it up higher, you can rotate it, the orange piece that it actually plugs into on this, and then rotate this piece up even higher. If you want it to be more of a, give it a little bit more freedom to spin and maybe swing around and take out somebody to his side or behind him. It's there. It's an option. Personally, I like to leave it, just kind of flip it up like that and leave it sitting over his shoulder. So that's the main core robot transformation. He comes with some extra pieces. He comes with a cool cape. It's the Starscream cape, and then an extra back piece that allows it to peg in. And you do have to remove the treads to put the cape on, much like you needed to remove the treads for the back piece for the original Tyrant to make him look more like the G1 self. So you come back here. You just want to, down here, it pegs in down near these bottom hinges is where this panel pegs in. You can unpeg it from here if you want. You just kind of wiggle it loose. You can see this piece just has the pegs at the bottom, and then the treads fold up and peg into the back, but that's all that is. Whereas this piece kind of sits in where the treads go, and then also has some tabs up here that are going to tab in back here where the treads did. So you want to make sure, if you don't have to leave the cape on. The cape is a separate piece. You can separate that because sometimes this doesn't want to sit in straight if you have to try to put it on with the cape. And then you can go ahead and attach the cape right here. And the cape can hinge a little bit. You can have it flow out, and it has the hinges here so it can spread out. But you can give him kind of that cool flowy flame cape there. And again, you've got the shoulder cannon, which can go on either arm. But you also have, and this is really cool. Now you get some extra pieces so you can have both at the same time. And I'll show that off. But he comes with this sword. And it's a pretty cool sword. You can pull this off at the bottom, and that allows you to slide it through his hand. And then you can reattach this piece. And now he's got a flaming sword as well, which in and of itself already pretty cool. But if you take the sword, well, I didn't mean to take his hand off, but okay, plug that right back in there. We'll show the different hands here in a minute as well. You take the pieces of the sword, separate them all apart like this, and you take this piece and plug it in like that. Is it like that, or is it the other way? Yeah, like that. Plug it in with the thin parts pointing down. Like this. Take what was the end of the staff, put it right in here, or the end of the sword, put it right in here, plug this in, and this can go in either way. You can have it on either end, and then you plug this back in, and now he's got a battle scepter. And that also is pretty cool, which you can put, again, just put through his hand. And you just leave that piece off if you wanted to, but push it through his hand, plug that back on, and now he's got the scepter. You do get, here are the extra pieces you get. So the blade pieces, all of these 3 pieces are the same as are up here. So you could, if you want to have him hold both the sword and the scepter at the same time, you have the pieces to do that. These 3 pieces are exactly the same as the ones that come with the scepter. You just take this, put it together like that, and there's the top piece, and there's the bottom piece. This piece is a little different. However, this piece, I have seen this used on the scepter, but I'm trying to remember how I did it. I think you have to lose. Oh, no. I've seen it with, you can do a scepter with like this in the middle up top. And then, no, I can't remember how you did it. There's a way to have it both ways. Here, oh, it was like this. If you take this and put it on this end of the scepter, maybe like that. And then you could plug this in. Oh, no, you still need something. You can use this. You can use this in the scepter. Is my point. You could take this and you could put this piece up there if you want to have a different scepter with a longer piece in the center. You've got some options. Personally, I like to these extra sword pieces. I just kind of leave off to the side and let or have them in robot mode. Have them as a sword because it's some neat extra pieces, but I really dig the way this just transforms between the scepter and the sword. And so I've essentially got all of both weapons right here. Like I said, this pole piece is slightly different than this pole piece. You can see it's straight with kind of a little, it flares out at the end here with a little wider bit, whereas this has kind of a flary bit. And then a longer, this connector part that flares out is a little longer. So this piece overall is slightly longer than this piece. Or actually, no, it's about the same, I guess. So those are your options. He does have different hands, as I mentioned. He's got some closed fists. He actually ships with these solid closed fists in his hand, but he cannot transform with them. They do not fold up like these do, nor do his open hands. They're very easy to swap out. You want to give them fists. You just pull out one hand and then plug the post in. So there he is with fists. Or he's got some open hands here that you can plug in as well. Which is some neat options. Personally, I just usually leave these in because that's how he holds his scepter or sword, whichever configuration you've got it in. Plus, those are the hands that transform. So, but it's nice to have options if you're just going to put them in a cool pose on a shelf. Maybe you want a different hand option, and that's fine. Oh, smush the scepter a little bit there. And real quick, here he is with Tyrant. Just to show them off together. He's currently using the same hand cannon, or same cannon that Chaos Raven comes with. But just to give you an idea of the differences between the two of them. Granted, he had a lot more interchangeable parts than is shown here. But yeah, very cool little toy. Another nice addition to the Iron Factory collection, although it's kind of becoming an addiction as well. There is Chaos Raven, aka the Fallen. And a quick addendum here real quick. The way I did it technically functionally worked in the video, but when you transform the shoulders, I did it backwards. It still worked okay, but when you do it back, when you fold them in, make sure that this angled piece, see how it's off-centered? Make sure that that kind of L joint, that the corner of the L goes underneath. I had them rotated around this way. I had this whole piece rotated around so it was coming up and over and made it a little awkward. Make sure that rotates down so that elbow of the L is inside this piece, and then the shoulders sit much more comfortable and naturally than they did while I was doing it. So yeah, just lest I get accused of not doing it properly. I know how to do it. I did it the wrong way in the video, and as soon as I was done, I'm like, no, something's not right there, and I fixed it. So there you go. And real quick, also, the knee pads. They come up. It is 3 in the morning. I apologize. It's been a long day. But yeah, those come up. And now, doesn't he look better that way? Yes, he does. So, shoulders and knee pads. Just, my apologies. It's been a very long week. And it's very late tonight. But better to shoot him at 3 o'clock Saturday night into Sunday morning than shoot them at 3 a.m. Sunday morning into Monday morning when I have to work. So, there he is. There's a proper looking Chaos Raven. Thanks for watching. We'll have more cool stuff soon.